guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking all about contouring. I've gotten a few requests to do this video, so I figured why not. I'm actually in the middle of filming another video for you guys as well, which is smoky eyes, so just bear with me that I already have my brows on and my eye makeup is almost done. So the first thing I want you guys to know about contouring, and probably the most important thing about contouring, is knowing the difference between a bronzer and a contour. I see lots of women trying to contour using a bronzer shade and it just isn't how it's done. So if there's anything you're going to take from this video, it's knowing the difference between a bronzer and a contour. So I have two of my favorite products right here. These are the Smashbox contouring sticks. I have one shade in the contour shade and I have the other one in the bronzer shade. So I'm going to show you what a bronzer shade looks like. So a bronzer shade is always going to be something that is more warmer toned, has a little bit more orangey tones, maybe even a little bit of red tones in it. And a contour shade is going to be something that is a lot more cool toned. It has a little bit more of a gray undertone to it. It doesn't have a lot of warmth by any means. So when you look at these two shades, you should definitely be able to see the difference. So we have our bronzer right here. And then we have our contour shade right here. So there's a huge difference. And a trick for you guys to understand a little bit more about contour and bronzers is when you're standing out in the sun, for example, and you look down at the ground, what color is your shadow? It's gray. It's like a dark, cool tone color. That is what your contour shade is supposed to mimic. It's supposed to mimic a shadow on the face. If you were to go outside and stand in the sun and look down at the ground, would your shadow be the color of bronzer? No, it's not red, it's not orange, it literally has a gray undertone. So that's a little trick for you guys on how you can mentally understand what the difference is between a contour shade and a bronzer shade, because they're two totally different things and you definitely need to know the difference between both of them. So the first thing I'm going to do is prep my face. So I'm going in with a fuller coverage foundation today. I got a little sunburned over the weekend, so I need to cover that up. So I'm gonna actually go in with the Becca, what is the name of this? This is the Becca Backlight Priming Filter. I really like this. What I do is just take a couple pumps, actually more like 1.5, and I just massage this in and work it in as my primer. It makes your foundation just look really nice and glowy. Even though you may like something that's fuller coverage, sometimes you don't like the way it looks because it just looks too heavy. It doesn't have enough luminosity to it. If you're looking for something that leaves your foundation with really nice glow to it, I would highly recommend this primer. So after I have worked in that product, I'm going to go in with my Smashbox Studio Skin Foundation. I'm going to be using the color 1.1. So I'm just going to take that on my Real Techniques Beauty Blender. Actually, it's not called a beauty blender. I think it's actually called Real Techniques. I'm going to be using my Real Techniques Complexion Sponge. You can get these at Ulta. If you can't afford to get the real beauty blenders, this is a great alternative. So I'm going to be using the flat side, and I'm just going to take a few pumps on my sponge, and I'm going to start putting this over my whole face. You can use any kind of foundation that you already have at home or whatever you like. I just like when I'm contouring, I really like having a fuller coverage foundation, because when you're contouring, you don't want to see any redness or anything showing through the foundation, so I prefer something that is more coverage. After you have the desired coverage that you like from your foundation, you can choose your favorite concealer. A couple of mine are the Tarte Maracuja Creaseless Concealer. I really like these guys, and I also really like the Smashbox Studio Skin. This is a waterproof concealer. So I'm just going to go in, because I'm using the Smashbox foundation, I'm just going to go in with the same brand of concealer. I'm going to be using the color Fair Light, and what I'm going to do is apply this underneath my eye. When I apply my concealer, I use it in a triangle shape because you want this whole area to be light and lifted and really bright. I don't bring it up really high underneath my lashes, my lower lashes, because I don't want it to be creasy under there. So I just take whatever's product left from down here and I just blend it upwards. So I'm just taking my sponge again and using the corner, the tip of it, and I'm just going to be pressing this into the skin. You don't want to use swiping motions. That's why I don't really like to use brushes when it comes to my skin, because it kind of can buff around products. It takes away products sometimes. I just enjoy using my concealer and my foundation with a sponge. So again, I'm just taking that product and kind of just blending it up towards underneath my lashes, so I don't have a ton of product that I don't need under there. It's also less likely for you to get creasy. And I also like to bring my highlight up on the side of my nose, because I'm going to also show you about contouring your nose as well. So bringing your highlight up alongside of your nose also automatically will kind of slim it down as well, and we haven't even gotten to the contour part yet. So this is what you should have right now. I am going to finish off the rest of my face. I like to kind of work in sections because these because these concealers dry kind of quick. I don't want it to be attached to my face because I am more dry, so if I wait too long to blend it out, it will start to look too heavy on my skin. So I like to highlight my forehead. I don't use a ton of highlighter under my forehead because I do have a larger forehead, so I like to contour more than highlight my forehead. And I like to highlight my chin, and I do highlight a little bit down the bridge of my nose. So again, working quickly, I'm just going to be blending this out using the same corner of my sponge and just pressing it into the skin. Once you have your highlight in place, we are going to move on to the contour shade. So the contour shade, again, is one that looks more ashy toned. It has a cooler undertone. It definitely does not have any warmth to the color at all. So I'm going to be using the contour sticks today, just because I want to show you how to cream contour and use powder contour. So I'm going to try to show you both options. So what you like to do, everybody wants to have nice sculpted cheekbones, so I like to start in that area. So what you want to do when you're trying to find where to put your contour is, for example, if you take the contouring stick, or you can also take a makeup brush, and what you want to do is put it on your cheekbone and kind of roll it down, and you'll feel this little socket right below the cheekbone. That is where the contour shade is going to go on your face. So pretty much you want to find that hollow below your cheekbone. That is right where you want your contour to go. Keep in mind when you're contouring as well, you do want it to start from pretty much the corner of your ear, because you don't want there to be like this gap between your ear and where your contour starts. You don't want this to be an empty blank space right here. So make sure that you do buff it back pretty far so it looks more natural, if you want to say that your contour looks natural. So what I like to do is, again, start in that hollow of my cheeks. So I'm going to be drawing little hash marks. I don't like to draw a straight line. Sometimes it looks too harsh. It just looks really unnatural. It's personal preference for me. I don't like the way it looks. So I'm going to be evening it out. So on this side, again, below the cheekbone, and I can feel where that little hollow is, that's where your contour shade should go. So mine is about here. And then I also like to contour my forehead. If you don't have a larger forehead and you don't feel the need to contour your forehead, that's totally fine. Some people don't need to. I would recommend just doing the sides. You don't necessarily have to do the top, but because I have a larger forehead, I like to have the contouring on the top and the sides. If you like to mimic a larger lip, if you like to have fuller lips, you can also do the bottom of your lip right here. When we blend that out, it makes it look like it's more full. It looks like your bottom lip comes out further, and it will just look more plump. So that is a trick for you. You can also do the sides of the nose. Now, when you do the sides of the nose, you want to make sure that you have the contour shades very close together. So I'm going to show you, for example. Depending on the shape that you have, you might have to contour up a little higher. You might have to contour the bottom of your nose if it's longer. You'll have to play with what you like, what you don't like. Again, makeup is so personal and it's really about what you like. But for the face, that it's pretty much set in stone for you. So you always want to contour in the cheekbone area. You can do the bottom of the lip if you want to. If you have around your face and you want to chisel out your neck, you can definitely do that with your contour. Again, I have more of an oval shaped already. It is a little bit oval and heart shaped just because I have a larger forehead. So I like the way that my chin is. I don't usually ever contour my chin at all, but if you did want to, you would literally just follow the natural contour of your jawline, and you would just blend it out. So hopefully that makes sense for you. So what I'm going to do is actually use the same sponge that we've been using, and I use the, if you're looking at the side of your sponge, I use this side right here to blend out my contour. So I'm going to show you what I do. I'm literally just going to start stamping it into my skin, letting the sponge pretty much do the work for you. Again, making sure that you blend it back from your hairline because you don't want there to be a weird gap there. And I'm just going to quickly stamp this over my face. So once your contour is blended out, you can kind of see how this is all blended out. You can see that my cheek is a little bit more sculpted and this side is not blended out yet, but you can definitely start to see a difference where it just starts to look more sculpted, more lifted, and it kind of gives you like a bounce to your cheekbones. So just blending out the same side, just kind of stamping it in, making sure that it is back towards my hairline. And I kind of want to show you cream and powder because some people like to use both. Some people prefer cream. I go back and forth, I really do. Sometimes I like cream, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm too lazy to blend out my contour with a sponge, so I just like to slap on some powder. It really just depends. It will also depend on your skin type as well. I'm pretty normal to dry, so I can get away with both. It just really depends on what you like. And then once you get to your forehead, I'm still going to be using that same side, and I'm just going to be pushing this. I call it stamping. Pretty much it's what it feels like. You're just kind of stamping it in. And I really love these cream sticks because they blend out so incredibly easy. You don't have to do a lot of work. They look beautiful. You can buy them in a set. If you buy this set, it does come with the contour, the bronzer, and the highlight shade. But I really like these. They're just super creamy. They do come with a sharpener inside. So if you're looking for a nice cream contour, I would highly recommend the Smashbox ones. So again, just stamping it out. And then moving on to the nose, I just pinch the sides and I just, again, stamp it in. And you can also, a trick for you, if this feels a little abnormal for you, you can always use a little brush as well. So I just literally take the sides and just kind of buff it in. Contouring is just going to be about practicing. And then I'm just going to take that sponge and just kind of stamp over, just so the contour doesn't look heavy. It just looks natural. With the bottom on the lip, I'm just going to blend this out. And it will make a shadow looking like your lip is fuller. So once your contour is done, I'm going to switch over to the bronzer stick. And I am just going to keep this more on my actual cheek and not below where the contour is. So I actually just move it up a little and I'm keeping it on my cheeks. So I like to do little O's, keeping it on my cheek. And I just flip it, so here's the pointed end. The contour was on this side, so I'm just flipping the sponge and I'm using this side now to blend out my bronzer. Again, I just use stamping motions. So this is what you should have once your bronzer is applied. And so again, the bronzer kind of stays on the cheekbone or on the cheek, and your contour is going to go below, right in the hollows of underneath your cheek. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick in case you put your contour on and you're like, oh my gosh, it doesn't feel sculpted. I think I brought it too low, because you want to keep it towards the corner of your mouth. So when you're applying your contour, you want to keep it in the hollows of the cheeks, and imagine it being from the corner of your mouth up towards the corner of your ear. That's where your contour should be. Another trick for you too is I don't like to bring my contour in this area right here. So from the corner of my eye down and anything in this area, I don't want any product. If you start to bring your contour too low, in pictures it can kind of make women look like they might have a beard, or it looks like like a 5 o'clock shadow, honestly. So you want to make sure that this area is nice and clean. There is no product here. And if you end up, I'm just going to do it for you to show you on camera. Say I accidentally bring my contour too low. And I'm going to buff this out really quick just so I can show you for this purpose. Just make a quick mistake. And say that you kind of dragged it down and it was like too far down. All you have to do, sorry, drop my stick. All you have to do is take your highlight shade, and this is just a highlight shade in a matte highlight. So it is matte, it's no shimmer at all. Don't use anything that's shimmery. And all you want to do is clean up where your contour brought down too low. So I just pick a side of the sponge, and I'm just going to blend this and kind of stamp it into the skin. What this is going to do is make your contour look really sharp and defined, if you like that look, or if you accidentally make a mistake. Another thing that you can do is kind of bring it up and like sculpt it in an upwards direction if you feel like you want your cheeks to be even more high, more lifted. So all I have to do is like make my cheeks look lifted. And what this will do is make your cheek look even higher or lifted and more squishy, like more bounce to your cheek. And I'm just going to stamp that in. And the same on the side as well. And then with the highlight, whatever's left on my sponge, I kind of just bring it down the bridge of my nose. So this is what you should pretty much have once your contour, your bronzer, and your highlight is in place. So from here, what you can do, if you want to make sure that like everything stays in place, you might be going to a wedding or you're going out somewhere and you want it to be locked in place all day long, what I like to do is actually go in with contour and bronzer powders. So I'm going to be working from the Anastasia contour palette. This palette, in case you haven't seen it, it comes with 3 highlight shades and 3 bronzer contour shades. So the color that I'm going to be working with is the middle shade right here. This is a true contour color, so it matches our contour stick color. And what I'm going to be doing is just taking a little bit of this on a brush, and I'm pretty much using the powder just to set everything in place and make it even more intense and more sculpted. If you didn't want to use this step, that's totally fine. All you would do is go in with a setting powder or go in with a foundation powder that you really like that you have already. And all you would do is just take your powder, take a big fluffy brush, dip it in, and just set your whole makeup. Make sure that when you set it, I stamp it in place just because if you swipe too hard, it moves the product all around. We don't want to move our product around. So again, I just dip it in, kind of stamp it over the spots that I really want to make sure everything is locked in place. And this will keep everything in place for you all day long. But just because I want to show you the powder products as well, I'm just going to be going in with the powder contour over top. So again, taking that middle shade, I'm using a dual fiber brush, and I'm just going to be taking this contour shade, again, right where we used our contour stick. And I'm really just lightly using this, and it will just kind of intensify our contour that we have for us. Picking up a little bit more product, switching to the other side, and just really lightly buffing this, going over my contour on my forehead, down the sides of my nose a little. And then I like to use a big fluffy powder brush for my bronzer. This is just a big, it's tapered a little bit. I just really like the shape of this. So I'm just going to be going in with a bronzer. You can use anything that you have. I prefer something matte because I am going to go in with a highlight. So picking up a little bit of bronzer, keeping this on my cheeks and bringing it back towards the corner of where my hairline starts. I kind of warm up the side of my face. And if you ever look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, it doesn't look quite blended, all you have to do is take some kind of brush. I literally pick any kind of powder brush. And what I'm going to do is kind of lightly go over the edges so it looks more soft and diffused, because you don't want to look like there's a big round spot on your cheek. So just kind of lightly dust over top, just so it looks really nice. You can kind of tell in camera, like, see how much more diffused this looks now compared to this side where it's a little bit choppy. You can see a little bit of line here, and you can see where the bronzer starts right about here. So again, I'm just taking that brush and just lightly going over top of it so it kind of blends out the edges. Same for your forehead, you can just kind of go over the edges just so it looks really nice and diffused. So now that I have that in place, I'm going to go in with a highlighter that does have glow to it. So now this one is not matte, it has a glow to it. This is the Tarte highlighter in the shade Stunner, and it is stunning. It's so pretty. That's the shade right there. It's very beautiful. It's one of my favorite highlighters. If you're looking for a good highlighter, I highly recommend that one. And all I'm going to be doing is just taking a little bit of that product, tapping off the excess, and I'm going to be popping this on the tops of my cheekbones. So right in this area right here. I like to bring it around my brow a little bit just because I'm more dry, so I like a little bit more glow because I don't get oily throughout the day. You can take a little bit on your tip of your nose. Try not to use too much. For me, I don't love a really shiny nose. And then I pop a little bit on my Cupid's bow. This will make your lips appear fuller on the top as well, especially once you have your lip products in place. I like to go in with a setting spray to make sure everything is definitely locked in place all night long. And for this video, I'm going to be using the Urban Decay All Nighter Makeup Setting Spray. And all I do is just spray this all over, and that's what I'm going to do right now. And then I immediately go in and fan my face because it makes it dry really fast and it kind of locks everything in place. If you don't have a setting spray, you should definitely get one. I figured I would come on and show you a more up close of what we did today. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully this answers your questions about contouring. And if you have any more additional questions that maybe I didn't go over, please leave them in the comments. I'll definitely get back to you about anything that you have that you need to learn more about. So thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you soon.